Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show, guys. I'm one half of your host this afternoon, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty, and we are live here, as always, on the DSM-Media Philadelphia YouTube and Twitter channels. If you guys are new to the channel, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to check us out on Twitter first, at DSM_media is where you can find us, and then check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we're on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show, like you can see right here, make sure to check out that YouTube link specifically. It is the best and only spot through StreamYard that we can see your guys' comments, like my man D-Rab. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, family, any other sports fans, Philly sports fans, that is, that you may know that could be interested. The birds, man. The birds are back, Scotty. We took 2-month hiatus after that Super Bowl high, and I said to you a week ago, there's really not anything or not much Howie Roseman and the Eagles could do to upset me last night.
Yeah.
But really, in the back of my mind, there was only one or two things they could do to get me excited. To get me excited in late April coming off of that Super Bowl high. And they did just that. Now, it helps that only 2 quarterbacks were selected in the first round, and it helps that a couple running backs and some tight ends and some wide receivers and some guards and tackles continue to come off the board, and the board fell favorably for the Eagles. But Howie Roseman gets his guy at 31, not 32. He trades up with the Kansas City Chiefs, swapping the 32nd pick and a 5th rounder to KC, and they get Jihaad Campbell, linebacker, Scotty, from Alabama. Howie Roseman continues to just do the right things. It seems like we don't know how Jihaad Campbell's going to turn out, obviously, but everyone seems to love it. It's a kid that a lot of people had mocked in the top 10 to 15 talent perspective in this draft. He had shoulder surgery. He probably needs shoulder surgery on the other shoulder. I think they said following the season. So I guess he doesn't need it till afterwards. There were health concerns that probably has something to do with why he slipped down the board the way he did. But the Birds don't believe it's anything too long-term, and they get their guy. Howie goes against the grain. 2 corners last year and a linebacker this year, man. How are you feeling the morning after Jihaad Campbell is selected?
Yeah. The more I read and the more I watch on Jihaad Campbell, the more excited I get. I think to your point, just about Howie going into the draft, it wasn't a ton of pressure on him. In reality, there were a few guys that I had kind of, looked at other mock drafts, looked at the descriptions, got to watch, highlight tapes. Watching highlight tapes is a lot different than watching, full games.
Well, because there's no mistakes.
Play to play. Right? Exactly.
It's just positive.
You're going to get excited about these guys, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what, formation, what type of, looks that Jihaad was working with. What I do know is the pedigree of Alabama, what they produce. I do know he is a hometown kid. He's from the area, I believe New Jersey. And he's excited to be here, man. I think that's the biggest thing. He obviously took this opportunity last night, showed all the excitement in the world. But what really turned my head was this morning when I got to hear what Howie Roseman had to say about him in his press conference last night. I went to sleep right after the pick, man. I was like, I was like nodding off before our pick because it's just like, that was the other thing, man. The pick was in before those last set of commercials, and they ran fucking 10 to 11 commercials in a row before those last 2 picks by the Chiefs and the Eagles. They just milked the shit out of the draft, man. Nobody needs to stay up until midnight.
They got sponsors, they got commercials, they got to fit in there.
God, it is borderline unbearable, but with Howie Roseman at the helm, it keeps your excitement alive. It keeps you awake whenever the Eagles have a late pick like that in the first round. But hearing Howie talk about him this morning was just delightful to hear, and hearing where they had him graded out. They had him graded out as a top 10 guy on their board. So when they saw him get to the 20s, he started freaking out, panicking, trying to move up. To D-Rab's point, tried to move up to the 22nd, 23rd pick. Tried to make a swap with the Packers, I think, the Vikings at 24, something like that.
No one wanted to answer that 215
no one wanted to do it.
Number.
But they didn't take the player that we wanted either. So it was more like you could have came up. And to the Chiefs' point, I know we joke about, the Chiefs kind of giving us Jihaad Campbell. they weren't going to draft him. So it's a come up for them too. Like they get a free fifth. You know what I mean?
No one I haven't seen like an actual tweet. I think I've seen a lot of like trolling tweets, but kind of just like, oh, they traded up one spot. It had nothing to do with Kansas City. I'm sure most people know this, but for those that are somewhat confused by giving up a fifth, first of all, the Eagles have 900 picks over the next 2 years inside the top five rounds. So that's not a problem. That's not an issue. It was basically to stop anyone from the second round that was flirting with the idea of trading in front of the Eagles at 32 with Kansas City at 31 if they wanted Jihaad Campbell. That's the motive to going up one spot and giving up the fifth rounder, because if there's a team with one of the first 5 picks in the second round and they want Jihaad Campbell, maybe they jump the Eagles at 32 and now we're sitting here on our hands and our guys off the board. But yeah, man, once a guy that you had that the Eagles had, top 10, top 11 type of player on their big board. Howie said weeks ago, they didn't have 32 round 1 grades in this draft. Yeah. This was clearly a guy they had with a round 1 grade. And I know what my man was trying to say. He was very excited, very emotional last night. The rich got richer. Jihaad Campbell said the rich got rich.
He said the richer
got richer.
It's funny because my wife looked at me and said, "This guy's an idiot, though."
He's
a football player.
Yeah. But so to Martian's point, and you were talking to me about Malachi Starks the other on our last show, Scotty, and that's kind of when we started to get into the mid-20s. That was kind of my mindset. It was kind of like Malachi Starks.
That's what I thought.
Obviously,
that's what I thought they were moving up for.
Yeah, I thought it was coming, and then obviously Baltimore was 27, 28, so one of those 2 picks. And they take the safety, which is actually the team you mentioned drafting Malachi Starks the other day, because they just always do that. So then Campbell continues to fall the next pick or 2, and he lands in our lap, man. And I think my funniest takeaway from last night, because it's something that I swear to God has felt like has happened the last 3 drafts for Howie Roseman. We all know he's been knocking the draft out of the park, right?
Yeah.
But the Eagles get Jihaad Campbell, and the internet and folks at ESPN and everybody and other fan bases are not the people at ESPN, but other fan bases are livid. The ESPN people cannot believe it. They are mind blown. How do the Eagles and Howie Roseman keep getting away with it? How did they get possibly the steal of the first round? How did Jihaad Campbell? Guys, 30 other teams could have just taken, like, you know what I mean? Like, they could have just drafted him.
Yeah.
You don't want the Eagles to get Jihaad Campbell. He's that. Someone take him.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter falls to 9. Someone could have taken Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith falls to the back end. Cooper DeJean falls to the second round. A lot of people, a lot of teams could have very easily stopped it by drafting him.
That was one of the big knocks as a positive, I would say, for Jihaad Campbell as well. Mina Kimes, man, like I put a lot of stock into what Mina Kimes says, the opinions that she gives out, because you can just tell by the way she talks. She's very analytical. She watches the film. Yeah. And she called this guy like her favorite. She called it like her draft crush going into the draft, because it was the guy that was kind of getting slept on, had a little injury concerns, but he's a fucking freak athlete, played at a big program on the biggest stage. And I think that the most awesome thing that I'm looking at with this guy, man, he ran like a 4.5. He's super quick. He's super athletic. He has long arms. He's rangy. He could play edge. He could play outside linebacker. He could play middle linebacker. Like, they can go really anywhere they want with this guy. And you have Vic Fangio, who just loves those tweeners, man. He loves those guys that can play a little bit of edge, maybe drop back into a little bit of surprise coverage. Yeah. And he's very rangy, man. He has good ball instincts. He can get after the quarterback.
He's very Zach Bond-like.
He is. Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And I saw, people saying like Nakobe should be, I think, like shaking in his boots. I don't even think it's like that, man. I think it's one of these things where we could see Nakobe, Bond, and Jihaad on the field at the same time on some classic formation type of defensive sets. You know what I mean? With 3 linebackers.
He is the ultimate chess piece for Vic Fangio to operate with, because what this pick essentially does, right? And maybe this kid just has, like, I know this sounds crazy because Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond were an awesome duo this past year. And it was awful when Nakobe went down right before the postseason. But maybe Jihaad Campbell is just going to turn out to be a better linebacker. Like, that's a possibility, right? But what it also does is it allows Nakobe Dean, because let's not forget, Nakobe Dean got injured and had surgery very late into the season, like postseason, right? So it allows Nakobe Dean to not have to rush back. The Eagles don't have a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or, obviously Oren Burks moved on. They don't have a stopgap guy that we're just hoping doesn't get crushed until Nakobe Dean comes back. It allows them to have two stud linebackers with Nakobe Dean resting up. And then, like you mentioned, man, they can move him all across the board, right? So, hey, he's got injury concerns. Nakobe's got injury concerns. It allows both of them to maybe not have to play 97% of the snaps every Sunday. You know what I mean? But also having them on the field at the same time, Jihaad Campbell is a guy that they can use as an edge rusher in certain packages. And I absolutely believe that's what you're going to see Vic Fangio do. He's very Zach Bond, like I said. He's just long, athletic, big, can play off-ball coverage, has a success rate passing or rushing the passer, excuse me. He tackles very well. Jackson Dart is a New York Giant. Well, the clip that's going around all yesterday is Will Campbell standing up Jackson Dart and knocking his helmet off. He drops back in the coverage, either in the national championship or the playoff against Georgia, picks off Carson Beck when Bam is up 21 or 28-7 against Georgia. He's just an absolute unit, dude. Yeah. And like I said, there wasn't much Howie could do to make me upset. If there was anything Howie could do to make me upset last night, but I didn't think there was much picking at 32 coming off the Super Bowl where I was going to be excited for draft night. I really wasn't that excited for draft night. I just had it on. I was sitting back. I was relaxing. It's the NFL draft. It's just a great time of the year, but then it's like, all right, the board's starting to fall this way. And, you and I were talking, coming off a Super Bowl high, not having a top, whatever pick, not having glaring holes on our roster. There wasn't really, I wasn't doing a ton of research for the show in terms of Eagles draft. So there weren't a ton of guys I had my eyes on. This is one of the few that we were like, okay, if they can land him. And that's exactly what Howie did.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it's not just like his physical attributes as well. He did put up the numbers last season as well. He had 120 total tackles, 55 solo, 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, interception. So he covered the board when it comes to defensive statistics. He is he's going to be a freak. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes to get him integrated, right? Like we saw with Cooper DeJean, he had a little bit of an injury going into last season. Took him, 3, 4, 5 weeks to get really acclimated and out there full time for the defense. So how long will it take Jihaad Campbell to pick it all up and get on the field for this team? But exciting. And I'm not going to sit here and say that he couldn't come out and start day one. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it transgresses, and we'll see.
He's starting day one, brother.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because who's our linebackers in house? We got obviously Zach Bond. You got Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This is a first round pick, though.
Yeah, like I think he's absolutely starting day one. Like, look, he doesn't have. I mean, maybe I'm underestimating the name a bit, even though we're talking about big. I was going to say he doesn't have like the name cachet of like Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, like those guys we expected to step in day one, but realistically, like, no, he does. Like he's a guy that a lot of people that do their research and have to put together these mocks and these big boards had in the mid-teens, somewhere around there, as a top 11, 12 player. And this is what you get.
Yeah, that was my main concern, the injuries, right? Like when they said end of season, I didn't know if they meant end of his first rookie year, or did they mean like end of like the draft combine, like this season? You know what I mean? Like I didn't know which season they meant.
Yeah, I was confused by that as well, because it's like, all right, if he needs surgery on it, how's he playing a full NFL season and then getting the surgery?
Right.
But like, I mean, Alabama's season Well, then, yeah, I mean, I'd have to look into it. When did he get the first surgery would be my question. Like, did he get the first surgery right after Alabama season ends?
And then he goes and works out at the combine?
Right, like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it. What I've seen, I've seen different clips from 97.5, obviously in Philly, any tweets or any articles. I have not seen anyone mention the fact that he won't be, like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be, I feel like
that he won't be available.
People we're talking about, like,
for like big part of this season, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so
we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know when that's supposed to come.
The one other thing I wanted to throw out there with this type of pick, right? And, you know, you think about, like, why did he fall all the way to 31st? He's a linebacker, for one. Linebackers, where are their value? Where is the linebacker value in the NFL right now? It's hard to say. I saw on ESPN he's like the number one ranked in his position. So you could argue they got arguably the best linebacker in the draft. What I thought of when I was watching the highlights of him, though, how he can get across the field. He's like sideline to sideline type of linebacker, right? He's that fast. He's that athletic. He's a guy that's going to be able to QB spy on Jaden Daniels. Like, you have Jaden Daniels in your division.
Yeah.
Somebody you have to plan for. Like, I know we don't want to sit here and fawn over Jaden Daniels in his second season. He was great in his first year.
Yeah.
He's the mobile quarterback. It's something you're going to have to deal with 2 times a year on top of the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens of the world. So you get a rangy linebacker like this that can get anywhere on the field.
You said sideline to sideline, and you mentioned Washington with Jaden Daniels, and all I could picture in my head was that punch out on Noah Brown from Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean, where they chase him from basically the middle of the field over to the sideline. And all I can think about with the Jihaad Campbell pick is now there's basically 2 Zach Bonds out there.
Yeah.
There are 2 guys covering each side of midfield that are just rangy, tackle well, are going to, you know, he's a big dude, man. I promise you that man's going for the ball if he has a chance. He gets to learn from Zach Bond, Vic Fangio this summer. It's going to be exciting, man. And also, not just shout out to Howie for, you know, getting us all amped up and just making what seems like to be the correct pick, an exciting pick, but also going against the grain, man. I mean, Howie Roseman got crushed for a long time, more than 3 years ago, right? Like, the last 3 years, he has just absolutely nailed everything. But before that, he's never paying a running back. He's never paying a linebacker. He's never drafting a linebacker, corner, or safety early. The last 2 years, my man went corner, signed a linebacker, signed a running back, linebacker in the draft.
Yeah. And this was the direct comp I saw on ESPN.
Sign me up, brother, because the amount of hype surrounding Edgerrin Cooper last year was huge.
He was top 20 pick? Was he top 15 pick? Am I tripping? Top 10 pick?
Edgerrin Cooper?
I can't remember.
I think he was top 15. I can't remember. But I believe he was definitely top 15.
Where did he go? To the Colts?
Yeah, let's see. It's probably pretty bad that we're.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why the Colts came to my mind.
No. Green Bay.
Second round too.
Green Bay, because we had to play against them.
So yeah,
was he really?
To that point, man, the linebacker value, right? Because he was highly touted, obviously coming out of college, but
maybe I'm thinking of someone else then, because I do not remember the guy. Whoever I'm thinking of was not a second round pick, but good call, Pump Man. But yes, now that I'm looking at it, we did play against them in the playoffs, and I remember that was here's one of the guys that the Packers fans were in our comments talking about wrecking the game, and
you are right. You are right.
Down Jalen Hurts in the running attack.
You are right.
Yes.
So okay, yeah, fair enough.
Jihaad Campbell, love the pick, man. Eagles got a plethora of picks over the weekend as well.
What did you think of what the rest of the division did? Obviously, the Giants, they're the big other team, right? They had 2 picks in the first round. They trade back up for Jackson Dart.
I mean,
this feels like such a Giants pick, man. But
it does.
I don't know. I don't know much about him. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to be ass or suck. I mean, look, I would lean that way, given the team that he's gone to. But
Look, I liked watching him at Ole Miss when I had money on a game. Ole Miss's offense was high flying. It's exciting. Is he a byproduct of a Lane Kiffin college-led offense? I don't know if you saw the clip that has gone viral with Barstool and John Gruden, but
yes.
John Gruden meeting with all these quarterbacks, and it's just funny. It's funny, like they shouldn't be taken too seriously, but that was his count. I think it's an indictment on the quarterback class of this year. Because when they traded back up, you knew it was for a quarterback. Was it going to be Dart or was it going to be Shedeur Sanders?
Who would you have been? Who would you have rather them taken out of those two?
Like as an Eagles fan?
Yeah, as an Eagles fan,
I would have rather them taken Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, so you think Dart is better than Sanders?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not some film study quarterback guru from the college games.
I'm not super high on Sanders either.
Neither am I. And that's why I'm not trying to like laugh at the kid himself. I'm not trying to make a joke of him falling the second round. He's losing millions of dollars. But it's fun to me. It's funny the clown show that family has made and that Deion Sanders has made over the last couple of months. And it's funny because, look, I know he's got millions already from NIL and he's a Sanders. Yeah. Like, I get it. The name said, like, he's already a multi-millionaire. But he cost himself millions of dollars. You didn't throw at your pro day. You didn't go to the combine. I'm Shedeur. You got your motherfucking jersey number retired after being like 14 and 13 in 2 seasons at a university. Because your last name is Sanders. Well, if it was anybody else, it wouldn't be made into a big deal. Yes, because your last name is Sanders. That's why it's the big deal. That's the only reason your jersey number got retired. He doesn't throw. He doesn't work. And he got passed up on, man. So
I thought it is funny because it's all they really talked about last night on the broadcast as well. Shedeur Sanders. Like they just were counting down through the picks. And I just thought it was so funny. Like you really think that like Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are going to draft this guy? Like you think that they're going to deal like Pittsburgh? You think that Pittsburgh is going to deal with that because
it does kind of give the sentiment that like is Aaron Rodgers, does he just have to put pen to paper for Pittsburgh?
That's a sideshow in itself as well, right? Like so you could argue, but I don't know. It's both unattractive.
But, that was the story of the first round, right? You had those 2 quarterbacks, the trade up for Jackson Dart, Shedeur getting passed on. Only 2 quarterbacks, right? Or was it only 2 or 3? I think only 2. I think
Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. Yeah,
we're the only 2 quarterbacks, which is so rare because last year, like 8 of the first 11 picks were quarterbacks last year.
Well, you had a bunch of like, I don't know. We'll see what JJ McCarthy becomes and like what Will
Atlanta signed Kirk Cousins and then drafted Michael Penix. Just a lot of weird stuff last year. And then obviously probably the biggest thing of night one was as the draft was starting, Cleveland, Jacksonville.
Yeah, Travis Hunter
too.
What'd you think of that?
I think it's an awesome trade for Cleveland, unless because clearly Travis wasn't
he wasn't going to change Cleveland.
And you got what? You only swapped back 3 picks and got a second, a second, a fifth, and a first next year, or a second, a fourth, and a first.
Who's the one that got fleeced? Somebody got fleeced last night. Was it the Giants trading up for Jackson Dart? Did they give up like another first round pick?
It might have been.
Somebody got fleeced.
Here's the thing: there were people acting like the Browns were stupid when the trade first got announced, and I'm like, I don't understand how you're coming away from thinking the Browns are stupid.
Yeah,
they moved back 3 slots and got a second and a first next year.
I think if you're a casual, if you were a casual Browns fan,
unless you're a Browns fan that
had your heart set on Travis
Hunter himself. You didn't want anyone else but Travis Hunter. That's the only way you're upset at
What do you think about the Jags side of things, though? Like,
I'm very.
It felt like a very amateur, like Madden,
yeah.
It's exciting.
It was very like the movie Draft Day, like which, funny and ironically enough, is the Cleveland Browns, but it was very Draft Day, like selling the house for the name. I don't know, man. I don't know how it's going to work. We talked about this last week. I know both coordinators were put on the phone to talk to him. You have to play him on both sides of the ball for this pick to make sense. Travis Hunter is not the second overall player in the draft just as a wide receiver or just as a cornerback. He has to play both sides. And I heard the conversations last night of, well, why can't he play both sides? The college game's faster than the NFL game. There's less snaps in an NFL game. So his endurance level's already here. And, the NFL game's slower. Why can't he? Why hasn't anyone been able to do it since
consistently, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then I saw like different videos of like, would you rather wide receiver edition of Travis Hunter? People were saying they would take him over Marvin Harrison Jr. strictly as a wide receiver.
Bro,
I don't know. We'll see.
There's people comparing him
game-changing type of player on both sides of the ball. There's a reason he's arguably the most sought-after draft pick in this draft class. I don't think it's going to work on both sides of the ball for Jacksonville. And then if not, I don't think he's the number 2 overall pick.
I've seen people compare him to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, okay.
Believe it or not, Garrett Wilson. So, and I know that's how these NFL comps happen. They're going to get comped to great players all the time. But I will say, Brian Thomas, like it would be, think about it from our fan point, like when we got Smitty and then all of a sudden we got, AJ, and like now you have AJ Smitty and you got your quarterback, and it's exciting. It's just that we saw Trevor Lawrence on his back a lot last year. So I don't know that getting this awesome wide receiver 2, or if you want to make him wide receiver 1 over Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know how that's going to work, but it's exciting on paper. It's just, we've seen this movie over and over when teams don't build through the trenches, man. You can't skip steps. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and look, because the Giants were another team that was linked to Travis Hunter, and obviously they have Malik Neighbors. So from that standpoint, as an Eagles fan, it would have been, Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter. I don't view Travis Hunter as a wide receiver as one of those guys that he's come to.
Yeah.
Like Marvin Harrison Jr. was taken inside the top 10 with Arizona last year.
Yeah.
With Travis Hunter, if Travis Hunter wasn't a corner, is Travis Hunter being
Where was Marvin Harrison? Where was Marvin Harrison Jr.? Where was he selected?
8 or
top
9,
5?
right? 8 or
8 or 9. No, you're right.
No, you might be right. He might have been. Was he 4?
Was he 4 is what was sticking in my head.
Yeah, you might be correct.
Where was Marvin Harrison Jr.?
So,
because is he a better prospect than Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like, for real?
I mean, people will tell you he is, but as a wide receiver, no, I don't think so.
4th overall pick for Marvin Harrison Jr. So he was drafted higher, different draft, of course.
And look, don't people all over the place always talk about level of competition, like who you play and how you play against them?
Yeah.
Who the fuck was like Shador and Travis Hunter playing against the last 2 years?
Yeah. Dominate. They dominated from, I guess, obviously won the Heisman. Like, they dominated from a statistical standpoint. They didn't dominate it from a winning standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I know I probably sound like the ultimate hater, right? I'm laughing.
I know. Sanders. I know.
And because here's the thing, they did a 180 on me, because when Deion first got there and these two came out, and I remember like Colorado started like 3-0 their first year together or something, and it was getting all the noise, and The Rock was there, and Lil Wayne was there, and people weren't liking it. I actually liked them then. And then it's like they just reverted back to mediocrity. Not them, not individually, but the team was as about 500 as you could possibly be, underachieving as hell. And they get their jerseys retired after 2 years. And
so
I don't know
if
if you saw the Sanders draft party. He had a hat from every team on his wall. He had this own room that was all decked out that probably cost thousands on thousands on thousands of dollars. And he slipped. Why? Because you were too good to throw at your pro day. You were too good to throw at the combine. You were too good to talk. Bro, he wouldn't even talk to teams basically outside of like 5 teams.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of the Ball brothers, man.
Kind
reminds me of them, just like this, like unwavering arrogance.
The only difference is that the creator of it all is one of the best to ever do it.
Best ever, yeah.
That's the only difference.
I am a hater. And I will accept that I'm a hater, and it's more of just like the entitlement factor. I don't love that. But seeing Gilly at their house last night, that kind of bothered me as well, man. Like I'm being petty, I know, but this is the guy that's in the Eagles locker room, like dancing around with our squad.
I mean, and look, I don't know
a former Hall of Fame Cowboy and his son that's not going to be drafted to the Eagles. I just saw that.
And, like, are they close? Like, maybe they're close that no one knows about in the public eye, but like I've never. Am I wrong for not hearing of the Gilly and Deion Sanders friendship in the past before?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm off it. But
maybe we
got about 5 minutes to go. Let's get into Phillies talk, because if I'm going to be here when it's highs and I'm defending people off and I think they're playing well, I'm going to be here when things are not going so well. They start a 3-game set in Chicago today, afternoon game. They've lost 4 of 5, the Phillies have. The Cubs have won 4 or 5. The Phillies are now 1 game over 500. They're 13-12 on the season. Funny enough, Scotty, from a lineup perspective, Alec Boehm has gotten out of his slump. He's on like an 8 or 9 game hitting streak. Yeah. Johan Rojas is producing and driving in runs from the 9-hole spot, somewhat helping that center field spot that was so lost upon when Brandon Marsh and him weren't producing earlier on in the year. But as those two seem to be stepping up, and Bryson Stott stepping up in his new leadoff role, it's now the big guys, now the big boppers, the paid guys, aren't really doing what they're supposed to do. Kyle Schwarber obviously still playing very well. Kyle Schwarber is down to like 258. Remember when he was hitting like 480 on the year?
Yeah.
He's down to like 258. Bryce is hitting 250. Trey's hitting 247 or 248. JT Realmuto, my fucking God, dude. Like, this dude escapes such criticism. And I get it. He's still one of the best defensive catchers in the game, and I want to like him so much. He seems like a great dude off the field, right? This dude is a fucking nightmare at the plate. He leads the Phillies, and he has 9 walks. He has struck out 25 times this year.
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
He leads the Phillies in strikeouts. I believe, what's he hitting on the year, Scotty? 227 or something like that?
221 now.
221, leads the team in strikeouts. Makes a comment the other day that they're hitting into too many double plays. The next day in New York, to try to avoid a sweep, 2 different times, I believe, if not just once for sure, but I believe it was 2 times, JT Realmuto hits into an inning-ending double play when the Phillies could have put runs across the board. He consistently feels like he's the guy that ends innings or comes up short for this lineup. He is on my last nerve. Trey Turner, another guy I try to stick up for all the time, and I want to love, and he produces in certain moments. Scotty, the game we were there, hell, Trey had what, 4 hits?
Yeah.
This dude just constantly comes up and swings at the first pitch in a spot where they're trying to drive runners in. Constantly. Swings at balls in the dirt after taking a fastball right over the middle. His plate approach is mind-boggling. The lineup cannot hit with runners in scoring position lately. I'm going to throw this to you now. Since you and I have walked out of Citizens Bank Park 6 days ago after scoring 11 runs, the moment we exited that gate, the Phillies have plummeted. Yeah. Because, yes, they won that game, but that is the Jordan Romano 6-run 9th inning where we won 11-10 after being up 11-4.
Ruined my week.
Right. Ruined my weekend, ruined my night, ruined everything from a betting perspective. The next day, they blow a lead. They tie it back. They waste the 8th and 9th inning with runners in scoring position to win the game. They don't score in the bottom of the 10th. They blow the lead. They don't sweep the Marlins. And now they get swept by their crosstown, by their rival in New York, who knocked them out of the playoffs last year. And the Mets now have like a 5-game lead in first place. So we left CBP on a high, and they have done nothing but disappoint since.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head, man. Pretty much with everything you covered. You looked at game 1, you got 6 innings out of Nola. You did give up 4, right? But Cassie, Harper, Trey, 0 for 10. They had 3 walks in there, but 0 for 10 at the plate. Game 2, Cassie, Harper, Trey, 0 for 11 with 1 walk. And then obviously you had the Sanchez tweak, right? And that now he's a little beat up. He's day to day. Hopefully he can get back out there soon. So a lot of negativity swirling. You had a chance to kind of bring it back a little bit, right? With that extra innings game against the Mets to end that series, and it didn't go your way, obviously. I'm looking at this next series against the Cubs. This is like, and it's not a given, right? It's not a given. It's in Chicago. This is a team that is playing some really good baseball right now. I think they're number 1 in NL Central is like 16-10, something like that. They've beaten the Dodgers like 4 out of the last 6 times they played them in the last couple weeks. They're playing good baseball. It's a good prove-it spot once again for the Phillies.
Very good opportunity.
Bounce back.
It is. I would say this. As I was debating on what play I wanted on the Phillies game today, and obviously they're plus like 120 on the money line, so that's always something you look at. And I don't want to be too negative because, again, I'm not being too negative from a holistic standpoint. I'm just talking about right now, trying to see if they're going to win. You asked me, like, how are you feeling? There are moments when the Phillies are rolling where every single night you walk in, you feel like they're unbeatable. Like they are going to put runs on the board. The bullpen's going to be like they go on these winning streaks and they look like one of the best team. They look like the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
When they're going the way they are right now and they look lifeless and confused and unenthusiastic and the bullpen just continuously falls apart and they continuously strand bases loaded game after game after game, it feels like they're never going to dig out of that hole. Now they're going to at some point. I just don't know if today and this series is that day. The Cubs are playing great baseball. Their lineup is one of the best in the majors. I mean, I had their under 11.5 last Friday. Ask how that game went. That game scored 23 runs. Taijuan Walker's on the mound today. I know he's pitched incredibly well on the year. Does Topper let him go deeper in this game? You almost have to because of how bad the bullpen's been. So, we'll see, man. But
that was the other thing.
Great bounce back spot. I just don't know if it's coming this weekend.
I wanted to ask you because I haven't checked up on it before we hopped on here today. It was after, which game was it after? I saw that the Phillies had blown the most saves in the MLB.
That was probably
after the
Sunday
Marlins
game?
Yeah, the Marlins Sunday game. Yeah. Is that still factually true? Do we know about that?
I believe it is. So they've blown the most saves in the majors. Their bullpen ERA stinks. Romano I feel bad for the guy, honestly. Romano can't pitch right now for this team. Guys that I don't know if they were counting on or banking on in a Jose Ruiz, in a Tanner Banks, in a Joe Ross, just aren't guys you can have out there in like high leverage spots or even just mediocre spots. And then we had our big 3, which is something I brought up last week to you. Remember, I said, what do the Diamondbacks do to us in the playoffs? Starters get through 6, 7, 8, 9, and they crush you, right? Yeah. And for the beginning of the season, we had that. Now Orion Kerkering can't find the plate. Now Orion Kerkering can't find a scoreless inning. Now Orion Kerkering can't hold down a lead. So now we're looking at possibly 2 arms in Jose Alvarado and Matt Strahm that we can actually depend on until one or more of these guys snap out of it. Again, it's a long season. I know people are spiraling. I know this bullpen stinks right now, and it does. It's bad. There are some guys like a Tanner Banks, like a Jose Ruiz, that just are never going to snap out of it. I don't think they're major league pitchers. Chill on Orion Kerkering, and maybe one guy surprises you. I'll tell you what, our AAA team, the Iron Pigs, had the best bullpen in AAA.
That's where I was going.
To Jack Fritz. So maybe the Rangers are right there.
What's up with Ranger? Where's he at? Because I saw he bought like a whole food truck.
Here's the thing. Rangers should not be put to the bullpen yet.
Yeah.
When Ranger Suarez comes back.
If he comes back, Taijuan Walker maybe can go to the
correct.
Maybe just an option.
Correct. But Ranger Suarez comes back as a starter.
Yeah.
When Andrew Painter comes up.
Yeah.
That's something you could tinker with.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's where Rangers' experience comes into play. He starts less. he gets moved to the pen in a more critical role. But we'll see. Just don't do it yet, right? But guys, that is going to wrap up this Friday edition of the Phaithful Phanatics show. Jihaad Campbell is an Eagle. The Phillies start a 3-game set at Wrigley in just over an hour. Let's see if Taijuan Walker can go out there and put it together a quality start again. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and peace out and enjoy your weekend.
Peace, everybody.